Okay, so today what we look at in Luke chapter 2, starting at 39 is where I was reading, and I read up to chapter 3. I like to underline numbers. I like to look at numbers like when he was 12 years old, and I like to look at the feast, and I like to look at very small details that most of us, we just read the story. We don't look at the details, and I think I've overlooked this detail for, since 1985. I mean, seriously. Every time you read the Bible, when you're born again, you get more and more out of it. And I'm just, I'm just amazed that every time I read it, I find something different that I've never seen before. For instance, on this one, when he was 12 years old, they were at the feast of Passover. Passover was the feast where they had to sacrifice a lamb, put the blood on the, door, and the spirit of death would pass over them. That's why it's called Passover. Now, the parents left the Passover feast thinking that, Jesus was with them, because the women rode in the front and the men rode in the back. And I guess, it was like the Home Alone story where one thought the other had him, and he ended up being left behind. And then, now it was after 3 days, the Passover lamb sacrifice, 3 days, they found him. Do you see a connection here? I feel like this was a foreshadowing of the resurrection, because after Jesus was sacrificed, the sacrificial lamb, 3 days later, he was, found again or rose again from the dead. He resurrected. I see like a thing here. I feel like it's not just put here. I believe that numbers have reasons. I believe that details have reasons. Why didn't Luke just say, a few days later, or when he was a, preteen, or when he was ending his childhood phase and going into adulthood? Because, Jews have the bar mitzvah, which means you become from a boy to a man at age 13. Cultures are very different around the world. In America, I was looking at, I was at one of my relatives' funerals, and I was looking at the headstones, and I always like to look at this headstone. And I came across one. It would just particularly stun me that it was like, I saw the age of the birth of both. It was, a couple, a man and his wife together. It was about 100 years ago, and they were both born at, say, like, I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. I was doing the math in my head. So they were born in 1900. Well, then it showed their union date, their marriage date was 1912. I was like, wait, come again? What? People got married at age 12? I'm like, I wasn't even thinking about that at age 12. So, again, cultures are different around the world, and also, for boys and girls, they go through adolescence, going from childhood to adulthood, from age 10 to 14. So, I guess if you're, old enough or whatever, our culture is delaying that. And even now, kids in college are acting like kids. They're like, we're just, even afterwards. I know a lot of kids in their, I call them kids, but they're in their 20s and they're living in their parents' basement playing video games. It's like, do you plan on getting married and having kids and moving on? So, it just depends on how you're raised and where you're raised at. But that's not the point of what I'm trying to get to. But numbers do have meaning. 3 days later, after the Passover, when the sacrificial lamb, they found him. So it kind of makes me feel like it's tied in for a reason. There's numbers are meaning something. The mention of the Feast of Tabernacles, not Tabernacle, sorry, Feast of Passover, it was mentioned exclusively, not just they went to a feast. They just went to Jerusalem. Because a lot of times when I hear people ever teach on this, which is rare, they just teach, he ditched his mom and dad, and they came back, and he was teaching about, stuff to those Pharisees and the scribes, and they were amazed at him. And you get that gist out of it, and that's fine and dandy, but that's ignoring a lot of the details. One of the things you'll find out about Luke is that Luke is full of details, and if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss something very important. I feel like that's what we're coming up on a very important feast right now called the Feast of Trumpets, Yom Teruah, also known as the head of the year, which is Rosh Hashanah, like the New Year. And I feel like a lot of people are missing a lot of details. Am I saying, a lot of people are believing that Jesus is coming back on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur? or not Yom Kippur, Yom Torah. I don't know, but there's a lot of reasons why we can believe in that, and I really hope so, because I think that would be a great tip off to the Jews that, hey, look, something just happened on a very important date, and then after that, 7 years later, well, 7 years later and 7 days later, that kind of plays together for the Feast of Tabernacles, when God will come back to dwell with man. So, well, is it Feast of Tabernacles? It's Yom Kippur, Day of Judgment, and then it's Yom, I'm getting my feast a little mixed up after that. I think it's Yom Kippur, and then the one of Tabernacles. So, yeah, okay, so the Feast of Tabernacles is after that. I need to study that too. That would be a great little study. Actually, since I've already read chapter 3 about John the Baptist at some point, because you got the little lines right there. The little lines mean I've read this section. I pulled it out and read it at some point. I'm just trying to read through this Bible, and I just read, this morning, so I circled it. And I've already read this in the past. That might be a good little diversion of going back and, this is my little bookmark, going back and reading about the feast. That might be a good idea. Or I could do a search about the feast and read about it as well. And I think I'm going to do that right now. So, hey, you guys have a great day. I'm going to go and get my feast straightened out. I know it's the day of, the Feast of Trumpets, then the day of judgment. I mean, how people have to judge their hearts. It's kind of like New Year's Day, which is ironically also like 7 days after Christmas, weirdly enough. For us, I mean, in America, we have we make our New Year's resolutions. We kind of base it on this. And then the Feast of Tabernacles, which is when God dwells with man, kind of like he did in the wilderness. So it all plays together, and it's like, that would be actually perfect for all this to be happening, if the trumpets is the rapture, and then 7 years and 7 days later, the return of the King. Is that thunder? If not, the cats are doing gymnastics. All right, I gotta go check to see if there's thunder, because I'd like to go walking on the beach in a few minutes after I do my little study here. All right, y'all have a fantastic, what is the day? Wednesday. Oh, it's Wasabi Wednesday. Oh no, better let the cats out. They're starting to scratch in the cat litter.